Well, that's good. This is an important discussion.
Oh, God. I'm getting texts, calls for all over the country, friends of mine that have, that have a yearly vacation here and they just don't know what to do. I just go on a second ago.
I bet I've gotten 20 calls or texts or emails with regards to decisions on lodging,
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah, I spent an insane amount of time on the phone yesterday.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out what the timeline is. But most of the decisions come down from the state and the county.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
This is like the first year that we're not sad about not getting invited anywhere for Thanksgiving. Just kind of Ellie and I and my bunker.
I like that.
Eating sliced turkey. But yeah, it's
You're right, Jeffrey. I mean, we've got a group that's been getting together for 35 years, probably.
Yeah.
Watch kids grow up and everything. And it's the first year we're not doing it.
Yeah, we got invited to this place and said, yeah, I think I'll pass. I asked them if they could send us some food though. Could you leave it outside our doorstep?
Jeffrey, there's going to be turkey dinners distributed in Father Dyer from 4 to 7. Go get yourself one.
No, I have an inside line for Eric downstairs at Eric's Thanksgiving takeout. So I'm gonna buy it there. Well, Ellie is.
I was going to bring Rick some food because he made such a sad story for himself last week, but now we're on quarantine and nobody wants anything to do with us.
No, you can have food. You can drop off food.
You don't.
People can drop off food here. Nobody wants our food.
I'd take anybody's food as long left it on my doorstep.
You might have breathed on it.
Oh yeah. God, this is some scary times.
Rick, are you batching it for Thanksgiving?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Where's number 8?
What?
Number 8.
I don't know.
I got a minute.
Okay.
Call him, make sure he was awake.
He's an early riser too.
Is Rick going to start us off?
Either Rick or me.
Okay, can we just make sure we start at the very, very, very beginning? Because I think everybody has incomplete knowledge on what's going on.
Yeah, we will start with Q&A too. And speaking of which, let's get started at 7:30. Let me call this special virtual meeting of the Town of Breckenridge Town Council to order. It is the 19th. God, 26th is next week. The 26th of November at 7:30. Roll call. Helen.
Mr. Gallagher. Not Mr. Gallagher.
He's not with us anymore.
Let's start over.
Okay, I got to.
That's the very beginning.
7:30. Here we go.
Better than saying Mr. Berteau.
Mr. Carlton.
Here.
Mr. Bergeron.
Here.
Ms. Owens.
Here.
Ms. Sade. Here. Mr. Kuhn.
Here.
Ms. Jello.
Here.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. Okay. So here's where we are. As of Sunday night at 5 p.m., level red goes into effect. Just to back up one more step, the state decided that rather than, they decided they needed another category in between level orange where we were and stay at home where we theoretically should be with our case count. Because there's so many counties in the state that are in this sort of same predicament as we are, the state decided they would create a new level That's level red. Level red does a couple of things in particular, and probably most significantly for our town, closes all indoor dining. You can have outdoor dining, but it's got to be truly outdoors. You can still have people come into a restaurant to pick up to-go food, but they must wear masks the entire time. The big distinction is indoor dining, you sit down, you take your mask off, and you spend an hour around like-minded people that also aren't wearing a mask. And that's where the data is showing a lot of the real danger is. Now, there are a lot of restaurants that are annoyed because there's not a ton of data that shows people have been getting sick in restaurants. You can argue that any way you want. The scientists are saying this is the problem. People are sitting around eating, talking, laughing, having fun with their masks off. No matter how distanced they are, it's still not doing the right thing because not everybody can have adequate ventilation. So what else happens on level red? We go to 50%, or we stay at 50% for retail, which is great. There's really not much effect for lodging, which I know some of you want to talk about at some point during this meeting, which we will get to. The first thing I want to do, though, is open up to questions. Shannon and Rick both have a lot of answers. And let's start there with questions about level red. Go ahead, Rick.
No, I was just saying we have a few answers.
Hey,
Still,
I'd
I
make
can
one.
tell you there's just to piggyback on what Eric said, there's still a couple of unknowns we need clarity on. I know that we have some businesses that invested critical financial dollar into assets for outside structures and tents. And we're getting what we're hearing, but it's not confirmed yet, is in order for anybody to occupy that, there has to be at least two sides of that. Two sides of the four sides have to be fully open to give it more of an open air, good ventilation in order for anybody to be seated in there. The unknown is if they would allow more than one household to be seated, even with separation in that structure.
And that's going to be weird because part of this order also says that for outdoor dining, only one household can sit at a table. So that's where some of that will be. There was a Q&A about offices. Offices are at 10%, and they're suggesting that as many people work from home as possible. That's a suggestion on that. Go ahead, Dick.
Just to add on the outdoor, the tents, those that invested in tents, if your intention all along was to have it be single party dining, obviously then we're into the interpretation of the health order. If any of the owners of those restaurants are listening, I would strongly encourage you, and you're welcome to call me after and I can hook you up, but call Sonia Riggs, the CEO of the Colorado Restaurant Association, and have her lobby hard, because I was talking to her before this, and originally the governor was going to shut down all outdoor dining, and the CRA made a huge push around outdoor dining across the state, and she lobbied really hard to get outdoor dining allowed. So she would be the one to help lobby for your cause there. I think she'll be most effective.
Hey, and one thing, Eric, I'd add, we talked about the data is still pending on what the infection rate of dining inside in a restaurant. I would say, at least anecdotally, whatever that danger is, it's amplified to the servers who don't just come in, eat, and leave, but spend the whole evening waiting and serving folks that come in, eat, and leave. So whatever, though maybe the data is still not pending on what the risk are for diners, it's magnified by the servers. And those are the people we also have to be really concerned about their health.
Yeah. And in the end, this information and this new level comes from the state. For anybody listening, this is not the town of Breckenridge. This is a state order that goes through Summit County Public Health. They add their own tweaks on it if they want to, but this is entirely a state order. We have heard Rick and I have heard from some restaurants that are claiming that they will not shut down. They're just going to stay open and go ahead and write me a ticket. And we'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it.
So here's what we know right now. If you saw the press release that came out, we know that there are 15 counties presently moving into level red, which is listed as severe risk at the state. Every county in the Denver Front Range area is moving into level red, along with us. Routt County, as another resort area, Steamboat is also moving in to level red. The governor announced that some of these were going to take effect tomorrow evening, but I'm not sure if they all got pushed to Sunday, but I know for sure, as Eric stated, that Summit's got pushed to Sunday for that to go in. There will be some other small implications. I mean, nothing really that will come in. We'll be reducing the numbers in the rec center down to only from what was 25 per room allowed to 10 per room, which is not, in light of everything else, it's a minor inconvenience. It'll still be open. The personal gatherings are totally restricted. There is no personal gatherings. Everything is to be limited to a single household. There's quite a bit of stir about that. People concerned that, government can't dictate if I have somebody over at my house and that, but that's what the restrictions are that are in place. The timeline, people are wondering how long. The state tells us generally it takes about 30 days to change the curve and to see the data where, and so everybody is targeting mid-December, hopefully, is when we could hope to maybe go back to a level orange prior to Christmas. So that's the plan now, but we've got a lot of work to do, and we've got a lot of changes that need to occur in order for us to be in a position to do that. So that's why a lot of these drastic measures are in place.
Hey, Rick, would you talk about City Market and and rec market real quick?
So a week ago, there was push from the council. Remember, you said follow up. We'd like to look at getting something done to restrict that. We worked with the county. They went ahead and put in a restriction of one person per 100 square feet, net square feet, which is the usable square feet minus shelving, et cetera. That worked out to about, to a number of around 240 people that would be allowed, including employees. They also have a number of what is considered 50% occupancy, and that is around 267 with employees. So it's a very close number. The county, it's my understanding the county wants to use the 50% occupancy to be consistent with other retail. So that is the restriction that will be in place at City Market. And that number does include employees working in what they call saleable areas where customers have access. So I've been on the phone with the manager. He understands what's going on. They're very cooperative. They do have one request, which I was going to bring up later, but it's a good time to do it now, is that they would like us to waive the plastic bag fee again. Their goal is to push people through as quick as possible. And when people bring their own reusable bags, they have to bag their own groceries. And that, you think, well, that doesn't take that much time, but they're in that business, and they said it slows the process a lot. And they want, they're asking for us to do that. We did it before when we were under restrictions. I think it's appropriate probably to do it again, as long as there's limited occupancy restrictions in the store. And talking with our staff, they would support. We don't want to ban the use of bags. We never reusable bags. City Market will control that, but what we can control is waiving the plastic bag fee. And if you all support that, we'll end up doing another town manager order. Again, waiving that fee like we did before.
Any
Before we
questions?
decide on that, before we decide on whether to support that, did they say that they would provide messaging or something that requires people to not come in more than 1 or 2 people per group?
I talked to them twice about that, and they thought that was a good idea. So I got the feeling they were going to put some sort of sign out there to try to market that to people.
Could that be part of the agreement? I had the same exact question as Kelly. Could that be part of, the deal of like, we'll forgo the bag fee if you put out a big sign? Like, they're great at those bright signs to say 1 to 2 people per party.
Certainly.
Please.
I will follow up and let them know. They may be listening right now, and let them know that
Okay.
we're more than happy to waive the fee and help them out. But we also need their help in limiting the number of parties that enter.
And I know it's a rotten job, but it also, during the busy times, it'd be nice to have kind of like a grocery store maitre d' outside to kind of remind people, when the Walton family comes in and you say, no, just 2 of you, opposed to just kind of letting it be an honor system in response to a sign. So yeah, I'd love to have them just have somebody out there.
Yeah, Dick.
That's what I was going to touch on. Who's responsible for enforcement, Rick? Because to my knowledge, I haven't been personally, it's been 4 or 5 days since I've been in there, but I've had a number of citizens express great concern that there's no enforcement yet. And it's, well, I won't use the language that I was told, but it's less than ideal in there. And there's extreme frustration with the locals.
Well, I'm not sure. I need to understand city markets, several city market, King Supers, Kroger stores use an infrared system to monitor and count people within the store. And I don't know if we have that technology here. So they have an idea of what capacity is or occupancy is, but Dick, the enforcement of that is the same as anywhere. It's gonna fall on us to do. The county does not have the people to go out and enforce these types of things, and so we would. It's like any public health order that we're working on, and we would do compliance checks. But if we get a complaint, we're going to go over there and we're going to end up having to try to determine how many people are in the store. And first thing we're going to do is ask them to see how they're counting, how they're monitoring, so that they can, we see that there's a system in place.
I know last spring they did have somebody at the front door counting and telling people when they could go in. And I'd sure like to see that again. I've received a number of complaints already from citizens that are really, really concerned. And as we get busier, well, starting today, probably, it's going to become more important.
I think what we can
definitely would like to see.
Go ahead, Dick. Dennis.
I definitely would like to see the onus put on them to monitor the number of customers they allow in the store, bar none.
Yeah,
that's their job.
I think what we should do is in this order that Rick will release, we'll get rid of the bag fee during the level red. But in return for that, 2 things that we're demanding is signage that indicates that only 1 or 2 people per party are allowed in the store. And we should probably exclude kids under 10. And then that they monitor the amount of people that are in the store at any one time, either through physical counting or an infrared system. And we'll let them decide that piece.
Agreed.
When does this go into effect?
I think, well, probably right away. Let me get to the big issue that we're going to face. According to the Destometrics last 60-day advance count that we received a little while ago, maybe last week, the period from maybe tomorrow, today or tomorrow, till the end of the Thanksgiving weekend is significantly higher for bookings and lodging in the lodging companies that give the information to Destinametrics than it was last year. It was really busy last year for Thanksgiving. We're closing indoor dining, and there's going to be more people here. So we have what Dick and I have been referring to as a food infrastructure crisis coming. Rick and I had, with Kelly and Shannon, had a discussion yesterday with some of the lodgers on our resiliency call. There are already people that are bailing on their trip. Unfortunately, there are some STRs that are not refunding people, in effect, making them come up here for a vacation they don't necessarily want to come to at this point. This is going to be a crisis in the community, and I don't know this is something that we'll be able to solve on such short notice today. You know, we'll be open through Sunday, so if people are here for the weekend, they'll be able to eat. But then next week will be, honestly, it'll be a bit of a disaster. We talked to Lucy about getting out some serious communications, as well as BGV, Beaver Run. You know, most of the people that were on the call with us yesterday, unfortunately, are the ones that do the right thing. Our concern is the ones that are not part of the larger group that have management companies. They're just, you know, either one-offs, or a guy owns 2 or 3 homes and he runs them from Denver and honestly doesn't care what happens up here. Just wants heads in beds, and that's it. That's where our crisis is going to come next week. I don't necessarily have a solution for this, but we do need to do some serious messaging that there is no dining up here. You should be bringing food from wherever you're coming from. I mean, you need to, if you're coming from Denver, you should stop at King Soopers in Denver and load up your car for your vacation, because, you know, City Market needs to be available for the locals that live here too, to be honest with you. So that's in a nutshell my greatest concern and what's keeping me up currently.
Well, and I
Hey,
feel
Eric.
like when people can book a room, there's a reasonable expectation that whatever location you're going to will have food for you. So, and I know we should message the heck out of this, but I just worry that people don't, I mean, we've seen it time and time again where people do not retain the knowledge that they were given, or people on vacation think, well, the locals are getting food from somewhere, right? So why can't I just go there? And I'm also worried that the grocery stores in Denver might be feeling some of the same pinches. I mean, we've already heard of, you know, people prepping and people, you know, buying more than what they can consume. And Denver's in a similar spot as we are right now too. So I just have a lot of concerns around all of these issues. But I agree with Eric that we don't have the infrastructure to support the amount of people that will be in town.
You know, and before we get too much further, I'd like to have a kind of a recap of our motivation and the rationale for this stuff. I just got a text from a buddy of mine from Texas who's watching that might not have tuned in at 7:30 in the morning our time. Same thing with I just got one from a gal from Florida. So in a nutshell, there's 15 counties that are level red in the state of Colorado, which is spiking. Colorado's spiking, and we're one of the 15 counties. So this is not this is a crisis situation. Just those of you that are watching, the locals know what we're talking about, but this is something that we're not doing kind of cavalierly. This is something that is a definite crisis, and we're trying to deal with it. So those of you that just tuned in, we don't want to do any of this stuff, or the state doesn't want to, and the county doesn't want to. We're doing it. It's because it's forced upon us, and because it's a health crisis.
Yeah, Dick, you're on mute, bud.
I have a thought. I would like to see us consider, and I don't know if this takes an ordinance or ask Rick to do an order. I would like to require our STR licensees, and we're going to need to message them all as quickly as possible, along with all of our lodging partners, require that they message all guests that have reservations for this week within 48 hours, I'd love to say 24, but whatever we determined is the right deadline, but no later than 48 hours. I think we maybe need to craft the message for them and give them required language. And if they don't, and I think we go on and maybe we go on websites, we do some search online and see if they are pushing out the information of the restrictions in lodging and such. I'm ready to shut them down. If they're not going to
easy, though,
play,
Dick.
Yeah, no,
Huh?
we can-
I don't
Well,
think it's that easy.
I
because of
just,
our-
I just want their cooperation. And I think, like Eric said, there's a large group of them that are going to be very quick to jump on board. They're great partners. There's too many others that we may have to take a heavy hand to, because there is enormous concern with our local community.
What even would be the mechanism? Do we even have the ability as a town to do anything there?
Only for the messaging, Carol. I don't think, and to sort of to some of the Q&A that's been coming through, we don't have the ability to require that short-term rentals return money. That is outside of our power. We also, I don't think we have the ability. I don't know that we have the ability to shut down lodging like this when there are booked guests. I think there's probably some takings issue in there that we would end up in court with. I think for us as a small town council, what we need to do is messaging, like Dick said. We do have the addresses and names of everybody that has a license. We know that Beaver Run, Grand Timber, the smaller management companies even they're doing the right thing. One of the problems though, and Toby from
Lodging
what was that?
Association.
Yeah.
Lodging Association.
He's the president of the Lodging Association, but he has his own management company. They send so much information to their guests that he's afraid a lot of this stuff gets lost. However, I think we do a very pointed message, bam, that's it.
So we legally cannot limit short-term lodging. We can't say I'm not talking about for this week. I'm also worried for December. We can't say set capacities on short-term lodging.
I think you could. I think you can. I think you can always be stricter than the county, stricter than the state. You could say that we're only going, but I don't know how what you're going to do is you're going to impact. You're going to go to the Marriotts, right? The Residence Inn, and you're going to say you're only allowed to be a maximum of 75% occupancy or something like that. So you're going to impact those more traditional type lodgings, and it's going to be the ones that are probably operating the best and not the ones that are bringing in the large groups of people and not messaging as well as like what Eric's talking about. Because you can't, I don't know how you would limit all your single family residence condominium stuff, which is we have about 3,600 over 3,600 short-term licenses in town. About 1,600 to 1,800 of those are more of the Beaver Runs, Breck, BGB, Marriott, those types of ones. So the biggest majority of our short-term rentals comes from private ownership. Now,
But Rick,
yeah.
Are the short-term rentals that are homes, are they limited to single family right now?
Yes.
So we are waiting. The answer is we think yes. I can tell you that some people are lobbying at lodging level to keep it at 2 households, but it's our understanding that this is going to be single household under the roof, and household is defined as those people that currently reside under the same roof, not relatives, got to reside under the same roof. So that is going to significantly, and what we heard yesterday, that will lower, that will increase the cancellations.
Well, and to be clear, I feel like the crisis that we're looking at, of course, this is all because of COVID. This is not to penalize whether somebody's doing a good job or a bad job. My concern is the volume of people and our food infrastructure. It's the volume, and it's not, whether people are following the rules or not. And also, I'm just not convinced that the messaging will get us there. I'm not convinced that people won't say, because, and again, that's not the lodging properties. It's not them, of course, I support, Dick, what you said about, mandating that lodging puts that message out there. My concern is when people go on vacation, they expect that, the locals are getting food somewhere. And so my concern is what happens if it doesn't work? What happens if people ignore that messaging?
I mean, your concern is what's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And how are you going to go in and tell them that they're going to randomly cancel 25% of their reservations and pick who those people are? I can tell you the message, and the committee yesterday knew that council is going to discuss this. Their ask to you was that they think you can put all the restrictions you want in place on some of this lodging. And as we've already found out, there's very little we can do to enforce lodging, to understand who's in compliance and who's not. It's not as simple as walking in to an open business and asking to see their employee health screen logs and seeing if, from a visual observation, if they're following the rules. We don't have a right to walk into somebody's private residence that they're occupying and check to see if they're doing it. It's a difficult to monitor, and they really, number one, the problem, they are estimating 10 to 20% reduction already just based on in lodging, based on us moving to level red. If we go to, if it goes to single household, that's basically limiting them to 6 people, really, on average. And they expect a considerable amount of cancellations if that occurs. The people we talked to said that they are doing refunds if the cancellation is based on a public health order or some change in it that would make their stay a violation. If they just change some people, if they just change their mind and said it doesn't sound like fun anymore, and they may not be doing a refund. But so maybe we need to see what's going to happen before we start trying to do some additional restrictions that I'm not sure how we would get implemented in the next couple weeks anyways, or even, most of your reservations for this 30-day period we're talking about are probably made.
Well, they're made for, and we just can't, we will end up, there's no way, for anybody on the line, there's no way that we're canceling reservations for this coming week, whether we would like to or not. There's no way that this town's going to end up in a bunch of lawsuits and have to refund, and we don't have the legal infrastructure or the monetary infrastructure to take this one on. We are caught in a bad place right now. The only thing we can really do is A, monitor, and B, enforcement when your neighbors not, when the locals that live here, if they're next to a house that all of a sudden has 15 cars in the driveway, and then has multiple license plates, that's the only way that we're going to be able to do any. Jeffrey, who is that? Anyway, so
Jeffrey joined twice.
Eric, great point, and that's not what I'm advocating. What I'm advocating is that we do strong messaging right away, and if we can facilitate another 10 or 20% cancellations through that messaging for this coming week, that takes some of the pressure off this crisis around our food system. And I'm sorry that this is going to happen in the short-term rentals, but it's happening to all of us. We all need to feel some of this pain to deal with where we are with our numbers. And from there, I would like to see us next week we're going to have a meeting Tuesday, discuss, how well are our partners doing in compliance? And I agree with you, Eric. I'm not advocating that we close Thanksgiving weekend. That would just, that's not possible. But I am advocating that we consider possibly doing some restrictions starting the Monday after. That's traditionally a quiet 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of December. And if we were going to close those first 2 weeks of December, that might not be a bad idea to try to get our numbers down and save Christmas. So that's where I'm going with my thoughts.
Dennis.
I'm really with Dick on this, is that our messaging may not be perfect, but it's the strongest tool we have in the toolbox right now. And I would like us to even take it as far as, and we have to craft this carefully, but you are welcome as long as you follow our rules. And I'd like to take it to the step of, these are the people that are not welcome. People that won't wear a mask, people that won't follow the rules. And Lucy's the master at creating messaging. I would love to see us in a short-term crisis like this. The message is our strongest tool.
Yep, I'm with you, Dennis. Just for the couple people that have talked about closing the ski area, that is also beyond our authority. The ski area mostly resides on federal land. So I think ski area decisions are all made at the state level and at the county level. I did have a conversation with Elizabeth Lawrence, our county commissioner, yesterday. She had a discussion about limiting the ski area more. Did not meet with great success. I know there is ongoing discussions about that, but as far as just closing the ski area, we can't, they really don't operate on our land. So we can't really affect any change there, unfortunately. Go ahead, Carol.
Before we move on for messaging, I agree with Dick and Dennis, what they said, like it needs to be strong. It can't be cutesy, and hopefully it makes an impact in people changing their habits and respecting what we have in place here. One thing I want to make sure we don't forget is retail. Retail is at limited capacity. Sometimes there's lines out the door. Sometimes the space is so small an entire party can't go in. So just in that messaging, I'd like to support retail as well. Just expectations, like help set expectations, and that'll reduce, I think, a lot of stress on our frontline workers. To what Dick was talking about if we even do have the mechanisms, the legal ability to limit lodging, that's something I'm not opposed to exploring. I mean, think restaurants, they had to call and cancel all Thanksgiving reservations before. There's no indoor dining, reduced capacity, they had to cancel. I don't think if we have the legal ability, I don't think we should rule out our lodging partners doing something similar.
That's a great point, Carol. And one other thing that came up yesterday that I found to be interesting, there is some fear in the retail community that with restaurants shut, if people don't understand what's going on, they'll take it out on the frontline retail people. You know, why the hell are all the restaurants closed? That kind of thing. And I think that's definitely a big concern, which just gets back to, you know, our need to do some severe messaging on this, and, you know, what we can do to really push that messaging out right now to all these people, and, you know, try to just get some natural attrition in the number of people that are coming up.
Hey, are we having a communication with BTO as far as like Go Breck putting out social media posts and invitations or implied invitations? Is that something that we might want to look at, like at least until Christmas, you know, reduce or actually limit or end any sort of Go Breck social media? Hey, it's snowing up here, we have a big dump or whatever.
We talk every day about that, Jeffrey. They're not pushing out any messaging now. So
I think they're putting out they're sending out stuff on Instagram.
Jeffrey, you sure it's not the scary? I agree with Rick. I think Lucy's very sensitive to that. And
Oh,
I think the messaging may be coming from the ski area and the lodging communities because they do their own messaging.
I just get text from somebody she saw something yesterday from Go Breck. But there again, it's Go Breck. I'll get him to send me her to send me a screenshot. But that's what she just sent it to me.
Okay.
So
And Lucy's listening, so
Hey, Rick, I wonder if, just back to the city market thing for a minute, I wonder if there's a way that we could do we could talk to them today about doing maybe an hour or two in the morning for seniors / locals. That's definitely been a concern through the Q&A thread this morning. I don't know how you'd enforce that. I mean, I don't know if somebody stands at the door and if you have a license that says you live here, you get in. I'm not really sure, but it's something that maybe we should consider, in particular the senior piece. I know that was a big deal early on. That first hour was a senior hour. I think that's a legitimate suggestion. I'd love to have it that locals only for a while in the morning kind of thing. If we could,
Or maybe you say
Yeah.
a paycheck if you have a pay stub or a driver's license or
Yeah.
something like that.
there are people that don't have paychecks though that are longtime locals. I mean, I don't know if Tony Harris carries a paycheck with him.
Yeah, but he'll have a driver's license with the local license,
Yeah.
with the local address. So either, so if we get our workforce that hasn't changed their driver's license yet, a paycheck would work too.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It might be too onerous on them, but I think it's worth exploring.
But even if it's a signage, even to say like, this is, and maybe it's every other day, like, locals versus seniors. But no, I think that's a great idea. And I think that would help the locals access.
Can I just say one thing, because I feel like we've gone pretty far down the visitor front. So far, like so many of you have to remember that when we look at the cases that are being reported by public health, that's from people who live here. And there are still so many personal gatherings, as in we had dinner with a friend last night, or we had, family friends come over. And I just want to remind people that a lot of the reason we are here where we are today is because of those personal gatherings. So please, please take it seriously over the next month and really don't do anything with anyone outside of your family so that we can get this under control within, the numbers within our public health.
Yeah. It's tough though. I mean, that's a tough one. Telling people that, single household only is going to be a tough thing. We will not be able to enforce any of this stuff. If you live alone, that means you can't hang out with anybody for the next, at least 30 days. And that's
so if you live alone, maybe it's appropriate to find 1 or 2 friends that maybe also live alone. I mean, just use your best judgment, because that's what we have to do right now. Otherwise, we are not going to be able to be in a better place in 3 months. I mean, it really comes from the personal gatherings. We have to be strict with ourselves for a few weeks so that we can get to a better place and go back to a more normal, COVID normal for the next few months. It's just really important. I know it's hard. I mean, we're in quarantine with my family for 24 days. Yes, it's hard. But the fact of the matter is, if we don't do it, we're not going to be in a better place in a month. We're just not.
Yep. Okay. I mean, really, the snake closest to our foot, as Jeffrey would say right now, is next week. And that's what we really need. We really need to get some messaging out right now about that. So, if everybody's good with messaging to the people that are coming here, and we did get a comment from Bruce Horry at Beaver Run that he's seeing more panic sell-off right now. And he thinks they'll be below that 10 to 20% drop off. So, this thing might hopefully self-regulate some of it. Really right now, what we need to do is make sure that people aren't roaming around town trying to find food that doesn't exist, unless they're, most restaurants will be doing to go, which is great. we've been talking about setting up pickup areas, and that kind of stuff is all in place right now. So, we've done some infrastructure changes from that standpoint. So, most of the restaurants in town are nimble enough to move to a to-go situation. You can still pick up to go inside. So if the curbside doesn't work and you have a restaurant, you can just have people come in the door as long as they socially distance on the way in and out, and they wear a mask the entire time. So that solves some of the problem that we had early on where you weren't even allowed in a location. So if we get some changes from City Market, I think those are some big things we can do, right now.
Well, and I think, Dick's suggestion of having, here's the language from the town, this is all of it, and push people toward takeout, push people toward bringing their own food. I mean, but really standardized, like Carol said, not cutesy. This is how it is, for better or for worse. We're still Breckenridge, but these are the rules. This is how to survive here. And pushing people, away from City Market, I think that's the best we can do.
So what's important for me, and it was a real takeaway yesterday in talking to some of the lodging people, is that the messaging has to be concise and easy for them to read, because people are not reading long messages. They're not following links when you have a bunch of links in your message. Don't expect somebody to, don't provide a link and say, go read the public health order that's 60 pages long, because it's not going to do it. We need bulleted messages of those primary things of and probably the one thing I would guide people to for more is some of the BTO stuff. They have a what to expect that Tessa keeps updated that is very easy to read. So we need to really work at some, and we'll get with Haley as soon as we're done. We'll coordinate with BTO. We'll get what that message is. What I want to do is talk with Tim, because I want to see how we're going to craft, if we can craft any kind of order that has any teeth in it that mandates this messaging that must go out to all license holders must use this messaging within X hours of the arrival of a guest or something like that. We're trying to clean up our rules that govern short-term rentals. The process with them is very cumbersome, and it makes it hard to hold them accountable when they're not following the rules, the current process. And so part of what you're going to see as a council the first part of December is some revised rules around that. I need to understand and look harder at how we can have a little bit of teeth in this to try to hold people accountable, to make sure that they're, doing this.
Since we mandate the license number to be posted on, Airbnb and short-term rental sites, can we also mandate, a warning or restriction or something like that? Or know before you go?
I think that's what he's going to need to talk to Tim about. To see
Because that's not in our current rules. So can that rule be changed right now and expect that to happen in the next week or two? I don't know.
Because that would be in the ad posting itself, not just an email to the client.
I know.
Hey, listen, this is for the guest's benefit too. We don't want anybody to come here and have a crappy time. We really don't. That's not, we're a tourist economy. We're a tourist town. That's what pays for all the stuff that we enjoy. Like the rec center and the trail network and the Nordic Center and everything that we love to do gets paid for by our guests. What we don't want to do is invite a bunch of people here for a crappy week that's going to be, frustrating, apocalyptic feeling. That's really, while everybody in town has different opinions of short-term rental, and some people hate them and some people, that's how they make their living. And there are a lot of great actors in this community that run exceptional management companies and lodging associations. There are a few bad actors, like in everything, and that's who we have to build rules to apply to that handful of people. The reason that these rules are in place aren't really that formulated is short-term rentals didn't just evolve 4 or 5 years ago. We have been a short-term rental town the entire time this town has been in existence. Well, not in the mining days, obviously, but since we've become a ski area, that's why we don't really have any hotels. We're a short-term rental community. That makes it difficult for us to say, we hate short-term rentals, get rid of them. It just doesn't operate that way because these people have owned homes. There are people that have short-term rentals in this town that have owned them for 40 or 50 years. So we need to be very careful about how we message going forward where our problems are. Currently, our problem is there's a lot of people coming to town next week, and we have just shut down a big part of the infrastructure of their vacation, and we need to make sure that we message this correctly. The second part, and talking about limiting some lodging, is really about COVID. This is not about going forward into infinity. It's about solving a health crisis that we are currently all part of. So I just want to make sure people don't think that the council hates short-term rentals and we just want to ban them. What we hate are the people that don't run their short-term rentals correctly, which is probably, unfortunately, nobody that's on this call this morning. The people that are interested are the ones that care and the ones that do things right anyway. And we as a council appreciate everything that you do for our community by bringing guests here to pay for the stuff that we like to do. So enough of the soapbox.
A lot of the short-term rental folks, they alert their renters like a couple weeks in advance and refer them to the county website and the links and all that. So, and that's something we could encourage as well down the road. It just to ask them to kind of send their renters and their soon-to-be renters to these county links and state links. Then that's a messaging that's easy and cheap and effective.
Can we get can we do some message boards on the way into town too, and on the way out of Denver? Do you think we can? I wonder if we should reach out to Nagin and Julie McCluskey.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's like pulling teeth to get CDOT to what message is going to be on those things, so they control all messaging along the highways. I don't have a problem putting some different message on ours, and then we can ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah.
We also don't want to encourage people from hoarding. We don't want to encourage people hoarding either. We just want to be careful of that as well in our messaging.
Yeah.
I just worry if we put a big sign saying restaurants are, close to indoor dining, people are going to start panicking and get everything that they can from the grocery store.
Well, yeah. The majority of people, I think, are aware of what's going on, certainly in the state of Colorado. I'm not sure, but there are people that have commented on our Q&A here that are from Texas and out of state that are planning on coming here, that are tuning in this morning, and to their credit, good for them, trying to get educated before they come here as to what's going on. Somebody asked about, City Market and one-way aisles. I know that they're having some professional signage. They know that the markers on the ground don't work well. They're having eye-level signage put to try to create better one-way aisles going down along City Market. So they're trying to do some things there to improve on that. So let me try to summarize, because I think we're at a place right now with lodging, at least, that we're going to work with our lodging partners. We're going to try to we will get messaging developed in the next 24 hours that we can communicate out to all of our license holders of what is required of them and how they should be marketing that. We will look at what we could put on. I know those pages are probably very limited, so I don't know what you could put on the advertisement page, but we'll ask. So that's where we're at with lodging right now. Well,
Okay.
Eric, what was the other thing we were gonna?
Okay, so
My
the
head-
second thing is sort of a relief effort. The first part of this would be relief to local work people. Are we interested in cutting some money loose back to FERC again for rent relief for, in particular, restaurant employees that are going to be out of work? They will be able to go on job attached unemployment. It's a little weird because nobody knows how long this is going to last. You know, some restaurants, well, some restaurants will be able to, you know, keep the majority of their kitchen staff and some of their other staff, but have to cut some people loose because the dining room is closed. So that's number one. And then number two would be, at some point, do we want to offer relief to some businesses of some kind, you know, as this goes on? Do we want to do another partial rent assistance for, you know, a sector that's closed? So that was the next discussion. Go ahead, Rick.
And before you jump into the getting people's feelings reference rent relief, I think we should let Shannon and Dick maybe talk for a minute. Shannon's part of a meeting, a countywide meeting yesterday with FERC, trying to gear up and say, you know, what's your current capacity? What are you currently doing? What might you need in the future? And I think that would be helpful to know where they're at currently, because they still do have some money that they still are doing rent relief with some people in the county. But Shannon, you want to touch on a couple things?
Dick, do you want me to do that, or do you want to start?
You know, I might frame it and throw it to you, Shannon, if you don't mind. I spoke with Brianne yesterday, and I think Carol and some others did as well with FERC. And they're exploring some other ways to get this money to the workforce. You know, for many of our so valuable workforce members in our community, this might not be their first rodeo to ask for it. So, you know, FERC's approach in the past is always very broad, and they're really helping our people understand resources available to them, and also helping coach them in ways that they can get through this period. You know, some people might not need quite as comprehensive of a approach right now. So FERC is, and to Brianne's credit, she pulled together a group of stakeholders and users and sponsors and her staff, which Shannon attended. So I'm going to throw it to her in a sec. But what I would like to see us consider is that we determine a significant amount of money and empower Shannon and Rick to administer it at their discretion, with the purpose of getting that money in the hands of the Breckenridge workforce to be used for rent relief, or it would go to landlords actually. But you know, the mechanisms of how that's going to happen, you know, are evolving very quickly right now. So Shannon, if you want to jump into some of the specifics, that'd be great.
Sure. So like Dick said, Brianne had planned this meeting prior to the knowing that we were going to be changing to level red. So we talked primarily around what they were seeing as the most need right now, and what they're anticipating going forward being the greatest need, and that being food and housing relief. As it stands right now, between the FERC and other entities distributing food, they're doing about 550 meals or distributions per week. So meals, not the right term, but distributions of food per week. So obviously they're anticipating that as we move into level red, that they'll have a higher need for food distribution, and obviously for housing relief. This right now, with their rental relief program that they normally run, they are about 4 weeks out from appointments for folks. So anticipating that as more people need help, that time will extend. And obviously people are upset and nervous that it's going to take that long before they can get an appointment to get in. We all know FERC has done an absolutely amazing job throughout. They always do an amazing job, but they've certainly done an amazing job during the COVID crisis. But they're experiencing a lot of what other entities in the community are experiencing as far as staffing and things like that. And, you know, to go back to the food distribution piece, they have a limited number of people that are working on that. You know, the boxes of food are heavy, it's icy outside, they're getting employees who are being injured while they're doing that work. And so a lot of our conversation was around how can we do that differently so that we can, as a community, still provide that help to citizens and that resource in a more effective, efficient way that isn't as labor intensive. So two things came up during that conversation. And I don't think we settled on any one particular strategy. We're going to meet again. But we talked at length about the idea of using gift cards for food so that it's just a much easier process for probably both the entity providing the funding and for the people receiving it. So that was one thing we talked about at length. And then the other was the system for rental relief probably needed to be what it was early on in COVID, because so many of the people who needed that resource needed other services. And what FERC, you all know, does really well is that kind of wraparound service. So they help not only with rental relief, but also with how to apply for unemployment benefits, how to get health care, and all that. Brianne does feel that this time around, a lot of the folks that would need help have probably already been through that system. And so the process could be streamlined because these folks maybe wouldn't need as much help. We talked again about the system that the town of Breck uses, and now some other entities are using, the SurveyMonkey Apply, that we use for childcare, and I believe we also used for our business rental assistance that we did. It's a really slick, really streamlined, easy to use, easy to administer system. And so I think we'd like to have further conversation about using that to quickly and easily implement a system that could potentially provide rental or housing relief to folks who need it. So again, we didn't settle on any one thing. Brianne's going to set up another meeting, and kind of the idea is to get the people involved that need to kind of sit down and get down to the nitty-gritty details of how we would administer either of those programs. And Brianne also said that, you know, maybe what we could do is the families, like the Spanish-speaking families and the families that would need, or citizens that would need more help, they would go through FERC. And that maybe we could parse out, you know, maybe the town could pick up the Breck folks who need help and we could administer that ourselves. So more to be discussed on that, but I guess the bottom line is FERC definitely recognizes, as we do, that there are going to be people who are in need during this time. And that food and housing are the two primary issues. Mental health was the third on Brianne's list, and Jen and I were both on that call, and Jen felt strongly, and I agree with her, that we have the mental health piece of it covered with Building Hope. So that was kind of a quick overview of that meeting, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Shannon, when it comes to FERC, do they have a mechanism in place? Because a lot of these workforce, the service, let's say, they're not going to be unemployed. But they'll have it's the same thing. They'll have a job, but with a drastically reduced income. So I don't want to, I would not want to have being laid off as a criteria of whether they can get support. I mean, you kind of wait.
Yep, and that was not a suggestion, Jeffrey. There was, we did not talk about what the criteria would be for help, but she did not in any way suggest that someone have to be unemployed in order to qualify.
Okay.
Here's a half-baked idea. What if we expanded our local appreciation voucher program and utilize that as an assistance on both sides, assistance to restaurant workers that don't work, and restaurants that can do to-go meals, so that we could somehow figure out a way to get those $15 vouchers into the hands of people that are, out of work, at least in the short run. I don't know. It's something we definitely have to, think through. I'm sure that just popped in my brain while Shannon was talking.
Would it be
So-
for gift cards for the grocery store, Eric, or would this be for takeout?
That'd be the same thing that we gave for the local appreciation, these ones.
Mhm.
So it'd be for takeout. I mean, it wouldn't be the grocery store piece that Shannon's talking about with the Visa gift card, but I was thinking about it because Dick and I were talking about seeing if we could somehow do some kind of trade between our employees, so they're not just eating, pizza every day for a month, which, but I don't know, maybe there's something there that we could help both sides of the equation.
On first thought, I don't know if that would be the best solution. If we want to support not just the people that live in BRAC, of course we want to support the businesses, but a lot of our workforce doesn't live within BRAC. And then I think just giving people the flexibility to budget for themselves to go to the grocery store.
But I think the vouchers on, maybe the restaurant vouchers on top of, a grocery store, I don't think it would be solely the restaurant, because that wouldn't even cover people's needs. But I really like that idea, because I think it would get like double the bang for the buck.
Would
Yeah.
Dick or Eric, would the restaurants have the wherewithal to facilitate all this? Like, in other words, I guess they might know firsthand what part of their staff is the most needy, but would they have the time and the energy to do that, to kind of facilitate all the voucher type, but even if it's a different type voucher?
For some of the workforce, we would. It might be hard with some of the workforce. So, I mean, I think it's a great idea, but more of just an icing on the cake kind of thing. I think our real energy and our real dollars should go into the grocery vouchers.
Okay.
Yeah, this was not to be in place of the grocery vouchers. This was more of we already have this thing in place. We could probably pump this out pretty quickly. You could allow restaurants to go over to town hall, say, I'm currently displacing, 20 wait staff. Can I get, 20 or 40 vouchers that I can just give to them in the short time? It's just stopgap. It's not, I agree with Carol. The big thing is actual groceries, but this is something we've already done recently. I don't know. Maybe we could turn something like this on quickly.
Yeah, it might be kind of thing. We're thinking of you. Help is on its way. Is just kind of an attaboy, attagirl type thing where we feel your pain and we're going to hopefully deal with it to a certain degree.
With that, I think frontline workers need more than that, more than icing on the cake, attaboy. They need help with bills, like they said at the FERC, housing, bills. What I heard from the FERC and what I understand is that they're stressed from an infrastructure standpoint too, staff, time, everything, and we can't just throw money at this. I'm wondering with Eric's idea, if we have that system in place where business licenses get vouchers instead of a voucher for other businesses, can we use that system to distribute grocery store gift cards? If we already have the infrastructure in place, we see what businesses, if it's restaurant, because they're closed indoor dining, laying off staff, they're the ones significantly impacted right now. We know people with restaurant license can apply for these gift cards to give to their employees. That also, I think, would help build loyalty. I mean, an issue is when these businesses are closed, it's tough for frontline workers. Are they going to stay? Are they going to move back to wherever they came from? I think something like that could help build loyalty with the business and their existing workforce.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. That's a really good thought. I think also, you know, I understand the sentiment of we might see people who needed help before need help again. I also wonder if we will have some new people who will need help because of, you know, I think restaurant people who are working at restaurants are seeing a bit of a snowball effect because, you know, March was shut off, the summer, you know, was restricted. Last month was even more restricted. I think it's hitting people where, okay, and you know, in December, the paycheck's going to come, and it's people who are relying on tips and things like that. And you know, tipping, I'm sure, has changed because the experience has changed. So to Carol's point, that might reach people who are not going to the FERC or not, you know, who haven't been through the system before, who haven't needed help before because of everything that's added up to this point. And that's starting, you know, adding up to today. That's not even encompassing, you know, the restaurants closing down for indoor dining. So I think we need to be cognizant of that too. But I think with Carol's suggestion, if it's coming from the restaurant, they would have an intimate knowledge and that relationship already, so that it's not like this, okay, you go to the FERC and it's, you know, it could be cumbersome and a new path for them.
And not taking away from that, restaurants have certainly been hardest hit with this last public health order, but I think there's a lot of retail and other people in town who, you know, after operating at 50% all year long have had way reduced hours and things like that. So I think that there is more of a need probably than, well, obviously, than just restaurants. So I think I would like to see anyone who applies, you know, to get into a program like this be given the opportunity, because it has definitely disproportionately hit those who already had very little capacity to, you know, go a couple weeks without a paycheck. And so I think there's a lot more than just the restaurant people who are really feeling it right now.
Yeah, I'd like to get a sense to if we know about what's going on with retail. Anecdotally, it seems like they weren't stung as badly, but are we going to talk about? Because I think, yeah, I'm all for help doing whatever we can for the workforce, for the frontline service, but pretty much if push comes to shove, they won't have a place to work unless we can give some relief to the restaurants themselves. Is that something we're going to be talking about today?
I agree with that. I mean, I really do think that we need to do a bit of like a stimulus package, some sort, you know, not dissimilar from what we did back in March. I would really like to see us considering, you know, just pumping some money in to get, I mean, we're, you know, not we, but the public health order is requiring people to close. I mean, it's just like what happened in March. And I think that if we can, as a town and our budget allow, then we should be providing some sort of relief for the restaurants.
And potentially, I would also add, you know, maybe not to the same degree because the restaurants are being closed down for, you know, inside dining. I would also be open to talk about some retail support as well.
Rick, is this something you guys would like to go away and think about, talk with Brian about, instead of us just?
No, I mean, I think we need direction because I think we need to know how soon you want to do this, what it, you know, we need a dollar amount. I can tell you, we haven't, as you recall, we would, you know, what's the limit? What are we trying to achieve with that? I think we're at a different place as a community than we were when we did the first round. And we had a lot more unknowns. I think we're still operating. We know people are going to be here. Retail, while I'm not going to sit here and blanket say that they're all doing good, we know retail performed very well this year. And a lot of that was due to their ability to expand and do outdoor display and additional signage, and some of that will change as we're moving into the winter. They've got a very robust shop local campaign that they're working on. So I think I would prioritize maybe how you're doing it, and I think that's where you have to make some policy decisions on how you want that disseminated, and we'll figure out a way to make it happen.
I'd like to I'd like to talk to Brian and get a figure of what we can kick back to the restaurants themselves. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't begin to come up with a number. I have no idea, but I mean, it would have to be substantial. It shouldn't be just a gesture. It should be something to keep these guys going until things get a little bit better, or definitely the Christmas week, and hopefully things will be more healthy. But yeah, I'll give you guys just kind of remind you, back in the old days, we lost a lot of restaurants on Main Street, and they were replaced with other businesses that didn't. Main Street wasn't nearly as vibrant as it is right now. So I think the first concern for me personally is to keep some of these restaurants whole until we can get through this thing, because that's why people walk Main Street.
And Jeffrey, while you're thinking about that, once we're through this part of it, we're just going back to 25%.
Yeah.
I mean, most of our peers that, we have restaurant calls every Monday morning. A lot of people they weren't doing good at 25% coming into this. That's not, that is a level that is really unsustainable for our industry right now. And it is statewide. We hear it from Sonia too, that, there are people closing all over the state because you can't operate it at 25%. So, it is a bigger problem. And we could just look at sales tax revenue. And the only sector that was down over the summer was restaurants. Everybody else saw, at least a little bit of positive, not a ton, but restaurants were down at least, 10 to 15% all summer long. So,
but there's, so you have about 125 restaurants, if you include those that are considered like, Clint's and coffee shop / type restaurant, food and beverage locations. So about 125. So, you do the math, on that. If you either, you were looking at rent relief last time. I think we started off, somebody remind me, was it 4,000 limit, or did we up it? I don't know.
4,000.
Yeah. But even if you did $5,000, you're going to be at, a little over $500,000 on that, which is certainly something that we can afford, because we did put some money aside as we did better this summer than we anticipated. Honestly, anywhere, I think, you probably should be targeting, if you're looking at rent relief for workers, in addition to some business relief. You're not going to save a business potentially. You don't have enough money to offer everybody where you're going to ensure that they're going to be able to go, pay all the bills, pay their rent, and keep people employed and be around, if they don't have the ability to hold on to this for the next. But you might be able to help them with, $5,000 or something. So I think you should do it. You set aside $1 million, like you did again, and then we see how we want to get it out there. But I think you have different levels of what you're targeting with this money. So,
Dick?
Yeah, thanks, Rick, for throwing out numbers. I'm going to recuse myself from the restaurant business discussion, but I want to just to frame this in a bigger context, and Rick touched on it. None of our businesses in town can thrive, and some can't even exist without workforce. So I want us to not forget our workforce. I mean, we're not forgetting them, but I think we really need to prioritize our workforce, because it helps our entire business sector across all places. I mean, you see, folks, having infrastructure problems, but it's workforce problems. It's our workforce is really, really strained. And I know our businesses are as well. So yeah, I'm glad you framed some numbers there, Rick, because I was going to suggest 500,000 that we put aside, or ask Brian to see if we can afford to put that amount aside for our workforce, with a smaller amount maybe going to food relief, a really smaller amount maybe supporting in some administrative infrastructure to distribute it if needed, and then the lion's share of it to go to our workforce in the form of rent relief and helping with their bills so that they can survive and they can stay here through these tough times. Because none of us have anything if we don't have workforce. They are the lifeblood of this community. So I'd like us to really prioritize that. I appreciate discussion about helping the business, but the workforce for me has to come first, because we don't have anything without them. So
Well said, Dick.
So while we have, go ahead. Well, while we have Dick and Eric, I think because they both have to decide if they're going to have a conflict when it comes to the business. Let's focus on FERC and what that would look like, and let's come up. I would suggest that Dick's. I'm comfortable with us doing $500,000 on that. I think we look at what that would look like with some food relief and other things, and then maybe what percentage of that goes towards rent relief. We would work with them on that. I think we want to work on process. Obviously, you heard a lot about process, timing. What does that look like? So we could get the wheels turning on that. I think if everybody's comfortable with where we're at.
Everybody comfortable with that for FERC? Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what I have a call with Nagoose on Monday. I know he's going to be taking another run at the HEROES Act as soon as the new administration gets seated. And I'd like to be able to tell him on Monday, we're putting $1 million aside again for relief in various forms. And, we put $1.5 million in last time, we got 400,000 back. I think the federal government needs to help us, and that's part of that HEROES Act. So I will definitely be telling him how much money we'd like to get back from the federal government to backstop some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Kelly?
Yeah, you guys, while we're talking about, which sectors we can help, I do want to mention that our childcare facilities are, I think they have sort of a unique issue that is the teachers get exposed to COVID at work, and then they have to quarantine for 2 weeks. And so right now they've moved through most of that 80 hours through the FMLA. They've also, many of them have dipped into some money from the Summit Foundation, which was an emergency fund. So we're basically looking at going into the cold and flu season with a lot of those teachers not having much paid leave left. So I would be really interested in looking at, in an attempt to retain those teachers, also to make them whole because they're being exposed on the front lines, and also to just make sure that when our economy, can really open again, that the families have a place to put those kids. I would really like to look at some amount of money that we could give each of our big centers to use for that sick leave or COVID quarantine leave for the teachers. And in addition, I think that there may be, if there are closures, each of our schools have had different either classroom closures or whole school closures over the last 6-8 months. And I think that our families are really, really starting to feel the strain of paying a full, month of daycare and only receiving a small portion of that. And I know that we're not going to make a wholesale change, but I would be interested in talking about some figure that if the schools are shut down, or if a whole school like Timberline is closed right now, if there's a capability for us to help shoulder some of that cost for our families, I think that would make a big difference in that workforce sector. So I'd like to throw that out there. If we can decide on a figure today, that's great. If we need more information, if people are interested in, having Corey and I talk about it more, that's fine. When we're talking about money, I do want you guys to know that we have a pretty significant issue there.
Hey, Kelly, what kind of money do you think it would take per, I'm assuming you're talking about all of them, Timberline, Little Red, the
Breck Montessori and Carriage House.
And Carriage House.
Yeah, so they all have a little bit of a different cost as far as a figure per. It's a lot of money. A lot of them are at about, well, not Breck Montessori, but the other three big ones are at about like $90,000 a month. So it's a pretty significant number if they did experience a month-long closure, and to have to for us to shoulder that cost instead of the families. But if we could somehow help with that expense, I think that would be terrific. And then as far as, the Summit Foundation, I think gave $100,000 per facility to help with teachers. And that might be wrong. If Corey's on here, maybe she can chime in. But the Summit Foundation did give a pretty big chunk of money for each facility to help with the COVID quarantine, payment of the teachers. So I don't know. $200,000 or $300,000, I think would make a significant difference if we want to go that high. I think any amount Rick says no, I say yes.
I just think that's a lot of money for that smaller group of people, but
sector. But it does.
Corey
Like Breck Montessori.
Corey said it was 20,000 per center.
Okay, great. So it was 100,000 for the 4 centers, or something in that range, maybe. But that was just for the teacher leave. That didn't have anything to do with helping the families, in case of another closure and not receiving that childcare.
What kind of money do we have in the childcare fund?
Oh, you have money, but you're going to run out. It's just, I think, but that's what it's there for. So that's where I would take it first. I'll also tell you that we have, I need to go back and look. You have significant nicotine tax money that is not getting spent in 2020.
Let's spend
and that can be used for certain things, and probably I'd want to see where we would be more comfortable using it based on the guidelines of how it was collected. But some of that money could be, I wouldn't have a problem funneling 100, 200,000 of that money into even some of what FERC's doing, and different things like that. So,
Rick, can we do this? Can we have staff research some of this stuff for next Tuesday's meeting, and then we can make a final, pull the ripcord on some of this?
Sure. Yeah.
The other thing I'd like to do, I'd like to, if we get to this thing where we are going to offer some of the restaurants money, there are restaurants that are larger in town that have bigger cushions than the smaller ones. It would be nice to put out a message to, the bigger restaurants that, look, this money's available, but if you'd like, you can give your money to FERC instead and make it like a sideways donation, so that the money's available. But it's almost like, we know restaurants are hurting, but if you're not hurting that bad, why don't you take that money and give it to FERC for your employees or something like that?
And we believe that there will be more support from the state later, right?
Well, yeah, but here's the problem. I was talking to Rick about this morning. My fear is that the state's going to do tax relief. And the way they want to do it is don't charge sales tax. Well, that doesn't, if you can't open your doors, not charging sales tax doesn't do anybody any good. What we really need is we need direct stimulus money. I'm talking about for all sectors now. We need direct stimulus money from the federal government to backstop what the town of Breckenridge is going to put into the economy. That's what we need. if the state does the same thing that they've been talking about, you know, it just doesn't, that just doesn't help any of us really. So they're going to convene this special legislative session. You know, we'll see. Maybe they will surprise all of us, but I don't see that coming.
Okay.
And you know, while we were talking, I just got texts from a couple of restaurants that would love to donate any relief that they got from the town directly to FERC. So I think that could be great to fill some of that money too. So let's let staff go away and not go home this weekend and work all weekend for us like they always do, and figure out what we can do so that on Tuesday we can say, yep, that's what we want to do with this money. We want to use some nicotine money for FERC, some nicotine money for childcare, figure out what kind of money we want to do in food assistance and money to FERC, and then potentially some money to a business sector. Does that sound good to everybody?
And rent assistance.
And rent
too,
assistance.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be FERC, yeah.
For today, we know that we're committed to a relief package somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million. We'll get.
I would use that. I'd use that $1 million figure if I was you.
Yeah. Because that's what I'm going to tell Nagoose on Monday. I'm going to tell him we're putting $1 million back into the community again.
Perfect.
Just
Hey,
for clarification, a message from the county is that we will be in level red effective tomorrow. Was it 5 p.m.? What was the time on it? 5 p.m. tomorrow. The only thing that's been postponed is restaurants.
Okay.
On Sunday. So we are in level red as of 5 p.m. Tomorrow evening for all other things other than the restaurants restrictions.
And the reason, just so everybody knows, the reasons we tried to push the county to change that to 5 p.m. on Sunday, there's a bunch of restaurants that, you know, you spend money at the start of the week for your weekend. So there's a lot of food sitting in walk-ins around town right now. And we'd like to give those restaurants the opportunity to burn through some of those supplies this weekend. So that's the whole reason for the Sunday, to allow them to get a Friday and Saturday out of it. Not everybody's going to be open for to-go is really what it comes down to.
Rick, clarification, is the child care fund, is the child care committee empowered to spend? Do they need to come back to us if they were going to pull 100,000 out of the child care fund and pay it to their workforce?
Yeah, I always want to come back to you because there's what we call spending authority based on budgets. And, you know, basically, if we're going outside what the budget is, what's been approved in a budget, we don't have spending authority. In some cases, we may, you know, give a spending authority for the full fund balance on some of our funds, but I'm not sure if childcare is one of those. Capital fund is one example where you actually, you know, have that fuller spending authority. But, you know, you're going to end up doing appropriations when you go outside those things. And I think that's where council has to weigh in on that. You could do a predetermined, you could say that we're going to allow authority to occur based on, you know, that the recommendations up to a certain amount, knowing that later you'll be doing it, that will be part of an appropriation. But you need to give that spending authority.
Hey, Rick, just knowing that the child care fund is going to run out in 2023, is there a way that if we did use some money, like 100,000 or a bigger portion from that, could we sort of like make a note to ourselves that we would replace that money in a year when we're in a better place, so that, because it just gives the families a lot of uncertainty to not know if they will have tuition assistance in 2 years. And I think I would rather not put that fund in that position. And I know that this council is very supportive of that fund.
Well, I mean, look, don't spend it out of there. Then go ahead and spend that money somewhere else right now if you don't want to do that. You have money And the reason you have money is because you're not doing capital projects. All right. So even when things turn around, you're not going to have more money. You're going to have less money because you have capital projects sitting out there that have to get done. We can't, if you don't do the Coin Valley Bridge and we don't do the things that happen, we can't build Alta Verde because we got to get it out of the floodplain. You know, you've got $4 million projects that are sitting out there that have to get done. And, you know, when we're coming out of COVID. So I don't think you're going to be in a better financial situation. Right now, you're setting in a fairly good financial situation because you did better this summer than you anticipated, and you're not doing the capital projects you would typically do. So you have some money setting there that you can choose to spend on these things. And I would say that if you're going to spend $100,000 on childcare and you don't want to deplete it, then we either get it. Then I want to see if I'm comfortable using nicotine dollars for that, or we just take it out of the excise fund. So
That's where I was going to go, Rick, is to see if staff could explore if we could get 100,000 out of the nicotine fund to help fund what Kelly was talking about, the needs of the daycare community, because that again is just a critical piece of the workforce. So, you know, we don't need to make that call now, but just if staff could take a look at it between now and Tuesday and advise us on
Sure.
Tuesday.
Sure.
I mean, I think as a general philosophy, I think Rick and Shannon and the staff that's listening understand what our intent is of trying to keep this town afloat until, honestly, at this point, this is going to last all winter long. I mean, this is until, you know, potentially April, potentially the vaccine will be, you know, will work, we'll be able to get it, we'll be able to come out of this thing and have a super strong summer. So staff knows what we want. All the people listening know where we're sort of headed with this. We will have a meeting on Tuesday. We can polish some of this stuff off, I think. In the meantime, I will talk to our friends at the federal level about, you know, pushing for this backstop money, which honestly we will not get until, you know, I mean, it's going to be after January at this point, but hopefully some things will change at the federal level and we'll start to get some relief from them too. We just got to get everybody to hang on now for, you know, what's probably going to be a couple of months, honestly. And I don't think anybody out there should think that this is just a couple weeks or a month. This is going to be a long winter for us. And we got to, you know, do what we can.
we're going to start a work session on Tuesday at 4 p.m.
Okay.
Right now I have it scheduled, hopefully that there'll be anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes at the end of that work session for COVID update type things. So that's when we'll jump into some follow up on what we would be proposing based on what we've heard from you today. And hopefully by, you know, the plan is we will have been disseminating messaging now by then also, so we can give you an update on what that looks like. I'm sure we'll have additional information that we're going to hear. We expect Public Health is meeting, a Board of Health is meeting again today, and they'll be finalizing some decisions that are still lingering out there a little bit. You know, the special ski area, you know, the statewide ski operations committee that was formed is having a special meeting tonight to discuss, you know, what, if any, additional restrictions should be imposed on ski area operations. So we may get more information on that over the weekend to see, you know, if there'll be anything there. But right now, that's about all I have. I will say that we have some new signage going up, and if you haven't seen it, I think it looks really
awesome.
good. I really like the Colorado colors, the Love This Place, Cover Your Face banner on Main Street. I haven't seen them yet, but I heard we got some new banners installed out at the median, right?
They look
as you
awesome.
come into town.
Yep.
I'm not sure where we're at on the sale banners, but I would suspect those will be close to start to pop up around town also. So, any other final things from anybody? Shannon, can you think of anything we need that we're missing? We need some direction on.
Are we gonna be able to provide like good, clear message on the Town of Breck website as of exactly what red level means for our businesses in town? Like we said, not just linking to the public health, 30-page public health document.
Well, Todd, I've got a meeting that we're putting together right now at 9:30. So
yeah,
Haley, and we're going to start talking about some of this stuff. So we'll see some bulleted stuff. I want to tie it into BTO and what they're doing. So, but I think the shorter the bullets we can try to highlight the stuff, the better.
Okay, so we have some direction for our meeting next Tuesday. Thank you to everybody that listened today. It was nice to see so many people. Thank you for all of you from out of state that really do care about, what we do in the community. There was a lot of Q&A. I got a ton of texts during the meeting just from everybody. Anybody that sent an idea, please know you can go to mayor@townofbreckenridge.com. Send any ideas you have. We look at everything. That goes to all the council. It goes through staff first and then to us. If you have ideas about what you think in sort of in lines with what we've been talking about, that you think's a good idea, send it. We're open to anything right now, trying to keep us afloat. Please don't think we don't want you here. That's not the intent of any of this. This is truly trying to work within the hammer of the state that dropped on us this just yesterday or 2 days ago. This was a shock to all of us. Nobody really thought they were going to close indoor dining. We had been sort of treading water with this 25%. I think some of us were really sort of blindsided that that's where we went right before Thanksgiving. But we have to do what the state says. They're the ones that have the experts. This is happening all over the country. This is not unique to Breckenridge or Summit County. Visitors drive us. So thank you for your interest, and to all the locals on there, thanks. Rick?
We still have a lot of people. I could tell you the county is recommending everybody get tested. You can go on the Summit County government COVID-19/testing site. You'll see the testing locations, the hours. If you're going to the drive-up testing that's in Silverthorne, it's free testing. You can fill out a online quick little blurb. It takes like a minute to do, and they'll send you a confirmation number, basically, that you would just show when you drive through and get that testing. The results are still taking 2 to 4 days to get. But here's one of the things that the experts are telling everybody is that sometimes it could be as high as 40% of people could be asymptomatic positive, and they have no idea that they are spreading COVID because they have zero symptoms out there. And so if they're able to identify those asymptomatic people through testing, then they go into a quarantine, right, and isolate them, and there's less spread. That's part of it, what they're doing. It also impacts our positivity rate, the more people that we get tested out there. We're seeing our positivity rate showing a decline lately, which is good, but our cases per 100,000 are still considerable. The one good thing that we have going for us is our hospitalization. So we have very little hospitalization occurring in Summit County, but the Front Range is busting at the seams. And, currently I think, right, Shannon, we would send people probably to the Front Range because this impacts your respiratory system, and who wants to be at elevation? But that may not be an option in the future like it currently is. So that could change. But right now, hospitalization is good for us. So, but consider testing, and also please strongly consider the what's the contact tracing app out there. And
it's already on your phone. Just turn it on. That's all you got to do. and wear a mask. Everybody.
All right. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks for everything. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to the council. Thanks in particular to the staff.
And there's a community meeting tomorrow morning at 9:30.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about some of the same stuff. You get it again.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Peace out.